All right, welcome back into this, our first section on using Photoshop Elements version 14. We're going to spend 3 sections covering the editing of photos. In this one, we'll cover the auto adjustments area under the quick tab. In the next section, we'll cover the toolbar and some of the menu options. And in the third section, we'll cover the guided wizard area. But before we jump into that, we need to decide how we're going to store back to our laptop our updated photos. Once we Photoshopped them, where are we going to put them? We really have 3 options. I use 2 of them on a regular basis. The first option is you store the updated image back to the same folder under the same name. That is, you replace the old image. This is my common practice when the old image really is of no use to me anymore. I like the new image, the updated Photoshopped image better, and I'm going to run with that. Your second option is to store back to the same folder but with a new updated name. I usually simply go V2 for version 2, version 3, etc. This is what I do when I want to retain the original, but I also want to keep my update. The final option is to create a new folder completely and store all your updated photos and images back to that location. Takes a little more time because you're changing folders and directories, but it works just as well. The options are up to you. Okay. Given that caveat, let's start to look at editing some photos in Photoshop Elements version 14. All right, let's fire up Photoshop Elements and open up a bunch of pictures. I'm going to use some photos my wife and I recently took on a trip out west. You can go ahead and grab any you like. Oh, check these out. A day going through Custer State Park, South Dakota. What a fun time. We begin with a quick scan through the deck to see what we're dealing with and to remind ourselves of the shoot and what we're really aiming to achieve. Oh yeah, the pronghorn and buffalo were just amazing that day. And oh man, those babies were just so darn cute. Next, are there any duplicates we can cull right away? Okay, these 2, the entrants, are clearly duplicates, so I can delete this guy right away. Unfortunately, Photoshop doesn't have a file delete option. So to do the delete, I have to first note the file name, then close it in Photoshop, and then finally delete it from within File Explorer. Yeah, I know, kind of goofy and a little bit of a hassle, but in their defense, I probably would have coded it the same way. We create enhance, you want to destroy, you do it on your own. Along those same lines, these 2 are clearly too far away even to save with cropping. Again, I'll just note their names, close them here, and delete them in File Explorer. All right, the rest all look pretty interesting, so I'll start my edits with this set of photos. All right, let's start with our Smart Fix function. Let's do it on this shot of a male pronghorn as it's a little overexposed in the original. Let's go to before and after horizontal views so we can better see what we've done. Okay, now let's go over here and select the Auto Smart Fix function. After a couple of seconds, we have pure magic. Are you kidding me? You can get that kind of cleanup with just a single click of a mouse? Check it out. You can even adjust the amount of autofix imposed on your photo. I still think the 100% adjustment is the best. I'm just going to save this guy back to the folder, replacing my old one because this is just a heck of a lot better shot. Thank you, Mr. SmartFix. You cleaned up our exposure problem and even seem to have sharpened things up quite a bit. Nice job. By the way, under normal circumstances, I would have also cropped that photo before storing it back. All right. Next, we're going to take a look at exposure level. Now, our Nikon generally does an excellent job of correctly exposing a shot if we are in either full auto or aperture priority mode, especially if we're outside, as we are for these shots. However, this one here of these pronghorns does look a tad overexposed, probably due to the variable shading in this shot. Anyway, let's bring it out to workspace and start with our regular auto smart fix. Next, let's go ahead and check out the auto exposure adjustments. All right, if we move it down one step, it does look a little better. But if we come up here to the menu and ask for some auto level correction and then auto contrast, we do a much better job. Oh, baby, that looks much better. Save that guy back and replace the original. Again, please note that under normal conditions, I probably would have done some cropping on this shot as well. All right, next we move on to the auto lighting adjustment function. Check out this shot of this buffalo's head. Nice, but it lacks some depth and character. Everything always looks so flat when you take shots in direct, bright sunlight. Let's start with our regular smart fix. Wow, huge improvement already, right? All right, now let's see if Photoshop can put some of that depth and character back into this shot, which was otherwise washed out by the bright, direct sunlight. We start with the shadow sub function. Not too much effect, so we'll leave it where Smart Fix already set it. How about the mid-tone sub function? Okay, now we're starting to get somewhere. This is much better. Oops, don't go too far. We don't want to cook these things, remember? Keep things looking natural. Let's move on to the highlight sub-tab. A couple of steps higher, and I am really liking what I see. Time to crop and compare it with the original. Come on, you gotta be saying wow right now. That is amazing what just a couple of easy clicks has done. The original shot is okay, but our final product could easily go on the wall of our home office. That's a strong shot. We of course finished this one off with a save and replace because we really don't want that original any longer. Come on, this is really starting to get fun, right? You could see yourself doing this and really making some awesome pictures. So let's move on to the auto color adjustment function. I'm going to use this photo as my next example. We'll start with a quick smart fix and then a little cropping. I want to see this little branch and leaf bud as my foreground subject and these mountain peaks as my background subject. Sound like something we discussed when we handled landscapes a couple of sections ago? Probably, because it should. Now let's open the color adjustment function. First thing we see is the saturation tab. How deep are the colors? I think I like one move step up on the saturation scale. If I go too far, it starts looking overcooked. Remember, we want nature, not a cartoon. Next, we move over to the hue tab. No change here because our camera's color accuracy is very good in bright sunlight. Finally, we move over to the vibrance tab. Unlike saturation, which boosts the entire wavelength of hues, this vibrance tab adjusts only the relatively less saturated hues. I'm going to give our photo a pretty good shot in the color arm. Wow, that's really looking nice. Time to save and replace because our original is just too ordinary. All right, that concludes our discussion of the Auto Adjustment tab. However, before we conclude this section, I want to spend just a couple of seconds describing the Effects panel. For this example, let's use this picture of this beautiful pronghorn. We'll start with our regular Smart Fix and then some quick cropping. Okay, that looks pretty good. What if we want to mess with him just a little? Let's check out that Effects panel and see what kind of updates we can make. Now, I'm a bit of a purist, so I really don't play down here very often. But once in a while, when I'm feeling particularly goofy, I may do something like add snow to a photo, or just change it to something a little off the wall. These effects are entirely up to you, so just play with them, as well as the textures and frames to get a feel for how they work. And when you choose to utilize one, go for it. Okay, let's review what we learned in this section. We began the section with a discussion of where and how to save back your new photoshopped images. You really have three options here. First is to save and replace. That is, you name back to the same folder with the same name. I do it a lot when I don't have any desire to retain the original photo. Your second option is also, I use it a lot, and that is to save back to the same folder but under a new name. Typically version 2 or version 3 is used. And finally, your third option is to create a new folder and save everything back there. It's entirely up to you how you want to do it. All right, once we opened Photoshop, we started by opening a bunch of files and doing a quick review of them to get our mind back into the shoot. What were we trying to achieve there? What were the goals? Next, we looked and said, are there any dupes here, or are there any shots that are so bad I can just cull these photos out right now? Remember, we had to close those images out of Photoshop first and then delete them out in File Explorer. No problem. Takes just a second. Keep them both open at the same time. Not a problem. We next began doing some photo editing, and we started with SmartFix. Man, that thing can do an amazing amount of repair on an image with just a single click. Alternatively, you can adjust the amount of SmartFix that it is imposed on your image and do a pretty good job with just a quick cleanup. Remember, my suggestion was that every photo edit begin with a quick SmartFix because it just does such a nice job with just a single click. Next, we looked at automatic exposure adjustment. Remember that pronghorn family that we looked a little overexposed? By the time we touched that thing up a little with automatic exposure and then auto levels, auto contrast, we had that thing cleaned up and it was looking fantastic. Nice job there on that. Again, I suggest you review that again because we did some nice work there. We then covered auto lighting adjustment. Remember that buffalo head that was a little washed out because of the bright sunlight in which we were shooting? Really lacked depth and character. By the time we did some auto lighting adjustment on it, we had improved it 100%. Deleted the original and just replaced it with the Photoshop version because it was so much better. We next looked at the auto color adjustment function on that landscape shot. Remember the little bud and leaf up in the foreground here and the mountain peaks in the back? Again, color adjustment just enhanced that photo 1,000 times over, and we did a pretty fair job on that one as well. We completed this section by bouncing around on the Auto Effects tab, messing around a little bit. We put snow on one pronghorn, changed the seasons. These, I don't use them a whole lot, but please explore both it as well as the textures and the frames tabs because there's some cool stuff in there, and by all means, play with them and learn them as we go along. All right, thanks a bunch. That concludes this section, our first on editing photos. In our next section, we're going to look at the toolbar and menu functions. So please get excited for that. Remember, keep on learning.